In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slay Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. We will call the meeting to order. The agenda is presented in front of you. Yes, Councillor Adams.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, reports and new business. Joanna.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present land use bylaw amendment bylaw number 9, 2023. And this is to amend several sections of the land use bylaw for first reading and scheduling of the public hearing. We generally don't discuss first readings, so and when we come back at second is when it would be presented in full.
We're just looking for a motion here today to schedule the public hearing. Councillor Hughes.
Yes, I will move that bylaw number 9-2023 to amend sections 3, 100, 101, 103, 104, and 108, 104A of the land use bylaw 22-2007 by adding definitions and listed uses for industrial laundry, laundromat and dry cleaning establishment, and industrial support receives first reading, and the required public hearing be scheduled for June 6, 2023.
Any discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Report B.
All right, that's me. So good evening, council. So the purpose of this report is to request a review and decision from council concerning a previous delegation that attended and presented before council. On March 21st, 2023, Alicia Blanchette attended the regular council meeting as a delegation. She presented council the circumstances surrounding penalties that had been accrued for over a 2-year period pertaining to their primary residential property. She claimed that as a result of a switch in financial institutions holding the mortgage, there was a misunderstanding on whether the bank was collecting and paying the associated property taxes. Administration confirmed that multiple tax notices would have been sent out to the property owners over the course of the past 2 years. The request was for council to consider partially or fully forgiving the $2,720.77 in penalties associated to the late fees. Options before council are to receive the report for information purposes and not proceed with any adjustment to the outstanding penalties. Or number 2, council to authorize a partial or full reduction in the amount of outstanding penalties. Resource impacts as of January 31st, 2023, the town currently had approximately 1.1 million in outstanding property taxes yet to be collected, all of which would have been associated penalties tied to their lack of payment. That is all I have for you.
Councillor Ferguson.
So I missed the meeting when they attended here, but I have a question. So in regards to the notices, would they have been sent via registered mail or just regular post?
Regular post, but under the MGA, as soon as those tax notices are issued, they're deemed in effect. So yeah, regardless of whether they would have received there would have been multiple instances of those letters and tax notices being sent and outstanding fees over the course of those 2 years. But under the MGA, it's a moot point because those taxes are deemed owed at the point of issuance.
Councillor Moala.
Wouldn't the financial institution let them know? I mean, wouldn't that be almost like a requirement by the financial institution to have that rolled in?
Well, at some point in time, usually the financial institutions will have an interest in making sure that taxes are owed on the property. But in terms of the requirement, it falls to the property owner themselves. So some financial institutions may collect or may build that into their mortgage payment or their dealings with the customer in terms of collecting taxes and paying on their behalf. But it's not necessarily a standard or uniform requirement across all. So some institutions handle it differently.
Councillor Adams.
At the end of the day, it is every taxpayer's responsibility to pay their taxes on time when they're due. It's not a surprise when they're due. You get multiple notices. In this case, what was it? 8 or 9 would have been issued in that time period.
I believe so.
That should have raised the question. So in my opinion, with the multiple attempts, the notices going out, and the way we stand with our taxes and our whole policy and procedures we have in place for the town of Slave Lake, I don't think we can waive this. We have the policies and procedures in place for a reason. We follow them, and where we are.
Counselor Adams may have answered my question, but just to clarify, can you define multiple?
Yeah, I believe it was close to 8 or 9 instances of where they should have received updates or notice of outstanding.
Now, are those individual letters saying, hey, pay this, or are these sent in with different other stuff we're sending
So
utility?
they would have been
bills?
separate. They would have been
Separate?
separate from a utility bill or anything along those lines. They're all separate mailings, individual. They wouldn't have been included with a water bill or included on a water bill. They would have been separate.
Okay,
Counselor Brandon?
thank you.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Counselor Adams. It should be a no-brainer, actually. As they say, there are two certainties in life, death and taxes, and everyone knows that if you don't pay your taxes, there are consequences. I realize that the intention on this one wasn't malicious and it was a mistake. However, we're talking about 2 full years of unpaid taxes. There's a policy in place where administration sends out notices, and we're hearing now that those were unheeded. Life has consequences, simple as that. If I miss my mortgage payment for 2 years, the bank wouldn't forgive any penalties. Credit cards have late fees, utility bills have late fees, so does the town of Slave Lake, and that's our policy. There is, they are there for a deterrent for a reason. Our annual budget also relies on that penalty revenue. I asked Roland for that number, and it's a little over 1% in taxes, increase in taxes, so it's not huge, but 1% is 1%. So I strongly disagree with waiving any of these fees for this homeowner because it's on the back of the rest of the community.
Counselor Moyle?
So I'm wondering, this is a more of an administration question, do all the notifications look exactly the same? So the first one would look exactly the same as like the 8th one that went out, or is there a process in there that maybe we take more of a stance?
Sorry, I don't have the answer for you, whether visually, if there's big red print that says past due across the top or not. And, I could see, from administration standpoint, I can see, the initial mix up, maybe getting to the first letter where I thought taxes were being collected and submitted, and now the first letter comes. That would be reasonable. It would have resulted in very minimal penalties as it would have related to this file if they would have at the very least made the inquiry and checked. But the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th ones start to become negligent in our opinion.
Counselor Adams?
Just a little off side thing here. You had it in the report. But if I understand this correctly, we estimate our taxes are roughly 9 million a year that we pull from the taxpayer for our operation, right?
I don't have those numbers
Ish.
before me, but it could be around there, yeah.
And then we have 1.1 million in outstanding taxes that you wrote in here. So we're sitting at over 12% outstanding right now. Is that normal for a town? Like that seems
That I don't
really
know.
high.
I mean, yeah, it could be. I didn't ask that question of our finance director when I got the information from him. I mean, some are late, obviously, and for the most part, I think we're relatively good on how much we end up collecting at the end of the day, but
1.1 million. Wow. Okay.
I don't know what the historical trend has been as it relates to that as of January 31st. I don't know.
Okay, sorry, can you just walk back to the very beginning of this as well? When they finally did come to understand that their taxes had not been paid, did they pay up immediately? And what is outstanding is the penalty, or where are
Correct.
we at with that?
No, that is correct. Yeah, I did confirm that the only outstanding amount is the penalty that's related to this property.
Okay,
So they have paid the principal or the outstanding balance. So that was rectified. I don't know how long after, but it was rectified. The only outstanding balance on their property roll tax is the dollar amount that's before you today.
Okay. Counselor Adams?
Getting mouthy on this one. The only concern I have here, we do lean more towards forgiveness on this. I would like to say then we need to revisit our whole policy and procedure on this. I am concerned with us setting a precedent in this, and the fact that you don't necessarily have to pay your taxes on time. That's okay. You get told multiple times, you let it go. I don't think that's right. And if we do go down the path here of waiving this, we really need to look hard and revamp how we operate as a town if we're going to go down this path outside of our normal operations.
Councillor Hughes.
I think I would just argue to that I don't see, I'd like to see us at least be reasonable in this situation. We don't know whether or not these were received, and things do go miss, which yes is on them, but in this situation, I would be leaning towards maybe a partial forgiveness of the penalties, given that they have come as a delegation and that they did pay their taxes immediately. I think there's a certain level of, forgiveness and reasonability that we also need to provide to residents. Sometimes things just happen and there is a level of human error as well. I'm not saying that this council should advocate that people should not pay their taxes. That's not what I mean. But I do think, there's a line there. So I'm just voicing that out loud. Where do we collectively as a group feel the line is?
Okay, well, I was going to weigh in, but I'll let the other councillors weigh in. Who wants to go first? Councillor Randall.
Just to give a bit of history too, for what Jeff said about the significant penalties as we go. When I first got on council, the very first penalty after the tax notice, the deadline was significant. I want to say it was I don't even remember, 10% or something. It was quite significant. And we would have the people coming in on, July 3rd or whatever and saying, oh crap, I forgot. And, I missed it by one day. So we actually changed it at that point to I think we switched the July penalty with the October penalty. So October was the heavy one, right? Yeah. So
You had a grace period.
yeah. So long story short, we have revisited this over the years, and I just wanted to put that because I am too really worried about setting precedents.
I'll weigh in now. I always am worried about setting precedent as well, because I don't believe, again, that people should not pay their taxes or people should not pay them on time. My perspective leans a little towards Councillor Hughes' suggestion in that there wasn't necessarily malicious intent, and we aren't a court, so we are not here to decide intent either, but it is within council's purview to make decisions based on opinion. I'm on the opinion that they paid their taxes as soon as they realized it was outstanding. I understand there were notices, so yes, that I believe they are at fault to an extent. I also can see how that happens with a family and notices coming in. It was a long time, but I would be more leaning towards a partial waiver. Councillor Adams.
Much actually in line with what Julie was saying as well. Sorry, Councillor Randall. Is we've got our policy in place. We have our penalty structure set up accordingly. That there is that small penalty for being late that first 6 months. It's there. The warnings were given out, the notices were given. Then it becomes significant at that point because you aren't paying your bill. It's there. And it's part of your due diligence. Even in this situation where you have, I think they said Scotiabank was the one they had at one point was paying this. You still have access to those accounts. You still have access to those balances, and that they've been paid or not paid. So I think there's been ample opportunity. There was the notices given out, and yes, we can't prove they were there, but there's been 9 shots at it. So I'm sure one of them made it through the mail. And it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Councillor Moallem.
Yeah, I think we need to have some sort of precedent or some sort of rule. These aren't the only people I think who are a little bit behind or who didn't have this outstanding balance. And I think next week or the week after, we could be seeing other other people coming in here as a delegation as well. So it's me being a new person as well on here. I think it'd be good to have some sort of precedent either way. I think that's it.
Well, I'll talk again. May I speak, your worship?
Counselor Crum.
I kind of agree with what Councillor Hughes and Mayor Ward have to say, but also the 8 to 9 notices are somewhat alarming, and I kind of wish one of the Blanchettes were here to ask that, or I wish that would have came up the night they were here to say like, hey, we were also gave you 8 letters in the mail and no one answered it. So we never had that discussion with them, or I haven't heard their point of view on it, and it irks me that they're not sitting here where I could ask them the question, hey, guys, you got 8 letters in the mail and you couldn't pay your taxes. Like, what's going on there? And there would be conversation would be over, or they'd say, we never received 8 letters in the mail, and we'd be discussing waiving a small fee of this. So I'm having a hard time picking a side on this one without being able to discuss that with the people who are asking for this request.
Counselor Randall.
Just to, at the rebuttal, I just find it hard that 9 notices wouldn't make it through when they did get their taxes and they knew the exact amount that they had to pay when they actually did find out that they got it. So
Fair enough.
that, I don't know, it just seems a little odd.
Counselor Adams.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, you go ahead.
Council receive the report for information purposes and not proceed with any adjustment to any outstanding.
Any further discussion? All right, I will call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Oh, all opposed, sorry. I haven't had him to do that yet. And that is carried now. Apologies for the, I'm apologizing to the camera. Apologies for the protocol interruption. Okay, continuing on. Downtown revitalization project.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The purpose of this report is to provide a project update to Council along with award recommendation for completing the work along East Walkway. The downtown revitalization project has been progressing since August 2021. The project was initially budgeted using municipal stimulus program. Earlier in 2022, Canada Community Revitalization Grant was secured, paying $500,000 towards the project. As per the grant requirements, the town council was required to fund additional $200,000, which were funded from reserves. With additional secured funding, council made a motion during July 2022 council meeting approving the extension of design to East Walkway along businesses and additionally allotting $100,000 to complete resurfacing work all the way up to 4th Ave. As of 2022, trail connection to Big Fish Bay entrance and surface work for both the plazas west of Main Street is complete. The only major scope left is to complete installation of art features, and information kiosk and site furniture along the west of Main Street. Town administration is working with a consultant currently to finalize a couple of design options for the art feature, which will be presented in future report. The kiosk and site furniture is expected to be installed this summer.
Is that like when you said furniture, is that benches or?
Yeah, benches and picnic tables, yes. The town administration invited Pavit Construction and Duro Contracting to provide an estimate to complete the surface work on East Walkway. The difference in the pricing between two contractors was very minimal, with Duro Contracting on the lower end. Pavit Construction completed both the plazas last year west of Main Street. The project saw some unforeseen delays affecting the overall progress of the project. The concrete subcontractor that was hired by Pavit had challenges with labor shortages affecting the schedule of the project last year. This year, Pavit is proposing to use the same contractor to complete the surfacing work along East Walkway. The crew size is small with high variability in work schedule. Pavit has proposed to complete the surfacing work in phases to minimize direct impact to businesses due to the proposed work. Duro Contracting has proposed to complete the surface work in 4 phases, which will also minimize direct impact to businesses due to the proposed work. The crew size is usually large and they are likely to stay on schedule. Town administration foresees steady progress with better control of overall project with this contractor. Duro Contracting recently secured the concrete repair work for this year. And they will also be completing the remaining portion of concrete scope on Third Street Southwest Road Rehabilitation Project. Town administration recommends to proceed with Duro Contracting for the surfacing work along East Walkway. And also we will make sure that we will have hard deadlines in the contract along with penalties if deadlines are not met. Council has two options, either to award the surfacing work to Pavit Construction or to award the surfacing work to Duro Contracting. Project expenditure to date is $878,000. Based on the estimated quantities of work along East Walkway, there is only enough budget to complete the East Walkway. The consultant is yet to provide cost estimate for art feature. So a report will be brought forward in future council meeting, showing the breakdown of the total project cost and additional funding request if need to be made. The work will be done in accordance with the town standards. Open house will also be held with the businesses to provide information on the overall work plan and answer any questions if they have. Website notification will also be sent out, providing information on traffic accommodation plan along the work area. Our recommendation is to accept the project update as information and award the East Walkway surfacing work to Duro Contracting Limited.
Okay, Councillor Hughes was first.
Got the first one on that one. Kush, what is the timeline for this? And I'm asking as someone who is possibly wanting to plan a downtown event in that area and could be affected by this. Can you speak to the timeline from both of the perspectives?
We haven't really verified the timelines yet because we have a kickoff meeting for Third Street this May 9th. That's when we will have a better idea as to when they will be completing that, and then they'll be moving towards downtown.
Okay, so they're completing all of Third Street before they go to downtown?
But Third Street is only 5 days for them to pour concrete, right?
5 days?
5 days, yeah.
Okay.
15.
So like realistically, do we feel like this is going to stretch through the month of July? Like, I know I'm asking for a lot, but I'm just very curious on time frame. But I also see that others want to weigh in, so go ahead.
Through the month of June, sorry, or the month of July?
No, I'm talking about July being the concern,
When
and
is
I
the
would be
event?
hoping it would be done. for-
Riverboat Days.
What?
July
End of-
7th to 10th.
Yes.
We can do half partial and then let it, go for the event and then do the partial, right? We can definitely work around.
It's a great point.
Okay.
Councillor Graham.
Okay, I have a few. Before we pick somebody, have you went over the penalties with either of these companies?
Yes,
And they're both on board with them?
yes.
What are the penalties then?
Usually like we usually put like $500 a day
Okay,
late charges.
and do they both have the same rough start dates?
No, Pavit hasn't provided any start date.
Because I think that'd be prudent to see when someone could begin as well. And then as those phases go, how do you see them playing out? Like, pretend you're the first phase.
Yeah.
What are we doing in front of these 4 businesses? Or is there
So,
walkways provided in and out of their things with
yes.
overhead? Like,
So basically, when they mobilize to the site, what they will do is, first thing they will do is they will remove all the curb, pour the curb in one section, and then they will move on surfacing. So surfacing is when they will do 3 businesses at a time, 2 or 3 businesses at a time, depending on the
and
length of the
is it
surface.
daytime? Because I know a number of them are already reaching out saying like, hey, like we have one entrance in here and it needs to be open
Right.
during the business hours. of the day.
And the contractor was open to working late hours if they need to accommodate any of the businesses.
Okay,
So, yeah, he was okay with that. At least I know for the fact Duro Contracting was. Pavit had a challenge last year because we tried to convince them to work long hours, but because their crew size was really small, they could only make so much progress and they were not willing to work late.
Councillor Gans is first.
Okay, I do struggle with this when we're talking about an out-of-town business and a local business. And how they weigh in, especially when there's $123 bid difference between. I understand we've had past challenges, but I think some of that's been addressed in the conversations from last year. And also within the scope of penalties and discussing that. So kind of what I was wondering is normally when you're doing these breakdowns or quotes, you have that point system in here and how they're awarded and it shows down. Why don't we have it in this one?
This was just a request. It was not like a,
Not the same thing?
no, it was not like a formal request for quotation or nothing like that. It was not open to everyone. It was only invitational. So we are just judging based on the information they have provided. We didn't have a specific set of rules to weigh the information that we request, especially for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then. I guess the part I struggle with is why, if we feel they're addressing, because labor shortage, I mean, I think that's something that is very erratic. It's kind of hard to predict that and say because someone had a labor shortage a year ago, doesn't mean they're going to have a labor shortage this year. So to weigh that into a situation I find difficult. I get where you're coming from, but that's just where I'm feeling right now. And I do weigh heavily on a local option or over an out of town option, especially when they're so close in price. I'm struggling with this one.
Just to clear that, Pavit is local, but they are hiring a contractor out of town, right? So they are hiring a subcontractor. It's not their own crew installing it. It's just they are hiring a subcontractor out of town coming and installing it.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Jeff, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, just a couple things, a point of clarification. The first question was Councilor Gamble asked about start date, and just to correct, you have Duro starting in town May 9th, which is within a.
No, May 9th is.
Or May
when we
9th is the
have-
start date, the start meeting.
May 9th is our kickoff meeting, right? So that's when they will give us information on when they can earliest start Third Street. And then based,
Date though for when they would start, other than the kickoff meeting? Okay.
No.
Second question about the validation or the point sort of system. If we would have implemented that in this process, previous history, previous dealings with it, delivering on their contract would have had a significant weighing or potentially had a significant weighing score going forward. In this case, all we're really doing is examining on based on price for the most part here. But if we would have had that system, we would have been negligent for administration not to have accounted for previous performance in regards to the contract, the difficulties we had with their meeting service delivery dates. You know, they were working out of town on other projects before working on ours. This council's pretty familiar with the number of complaints that were received and also directed towards administration. So although I would hope that a business would have an opportunity to make amends and correct those sort of things. This project will have even more public scrutiny because it's got a direct access to those businesses, as opposed to last year was a general open space that really didn't impact anyone's financial other than it was an eyesore. And why is it taking so long, right? So all of those combined is why we're recommending as administration that we go with the company that has delivered on this sort of project for us before, will be in town. I think one of the advantages of an out of town company coming in is that all of their staff are there. They're working one project to the next, as opposed to not necessarily being the case.
Councilor Moallem.
How do we decide that was my question when was what Steve asked in regards to, I like to see the RFP, the breakdown on price and on everything. How do we decide whether we go with an invitation or we go the other route where we do an RFP and they come back with a proposal?
So this project has already gone through that process. Like when we put it out for west side of Main Street, it went through that RFP process completely, right? And this was just an extension, right? So that's where we just thought the scope was less compared to the original scope. So that's where we thought, let's just do an invitational and get the pricing, right? Yeah.
Councilor Randall, and we'll go back to Councilor.
Okay. So for communication, you said website notifications. So is that like emails from Engagement HQ and Point or?
yeah, we will send out letters as well, like, and we'll make sure that those businesses are coordinated on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So I urge you to keep the
Yes.
businesses impacted informed. But not only that, the community needs to know because their customers need to know the impact that they're,
Yes.
where they're going to be parking and where they're.
I think
we're
that's
gonna be
where,
going to.
I think that's where we fell apart a bit last
I
time was
agree.
that
Yep.
the communication strategy, and it may have been due to lack of staff on the town end as well. The communication strategy wasn't
Right.
there. And then when that happens and everyone's wondering and then they hear, I don't know a bunch of times, it doesn't really sit well. That's while I'm here. Okay, Bryce is first, Council Ferguson.
So I have a
Like
question
air-
here, in regards to the scope of the project, what happens to the mature trees that are already existing there?
So we are trying to schedule an arborist to go out and verify how good, how healthy those trees are. If they are not, then we will have to remove those trees and plant a brand new trees.
Now, I would encourage administration, to do everything we can to keep those there, because if they're removed and we have like little saplings or small trees put in there, we will definitely hear about it at this table, I guarantee you.
Council Hughes.
I almost lost my train of thought. I was just going to echo what Councillor Brandel said about the level of communication going to businesses as well as residents. And I think just kind of say the overarching thing that I'm getting from both of you right now is that essentially with your recommendation of hiring Duro Contracting, we're going to get it done timely and it is going to be professional work and they're going to work with the businesses on Main Street.
Yes,
Is that a correct assumption?
yes,
Okay, great.
yes.
Councilor Grant.
Just kind of going off what Councillor Adams said with the margins being so close, like I'd hate to not throw the bone to the local company. But even if we're going that route, I'd like to, before I make a decision, know when they're gonna start. Like that's a big deal.
For both start date of both.
Usually like either of the contractor, they will start removals after May long, right?
But you usually is not really good answer. Like we're making a decision to hire somebody, like we need a start date so we could hopefully make the deadline date, right?
Councilor Moyle.
So when we do an invitation, do we ask for a timeline? Like. Okay, sorry, that was the May 9th. So both parties know that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Councilor Adams.
They're a little off topic again on this one, but and I'm going to so date myself. But when we did
Again?
the sidewalks last time,
Yes,
the aprons were the responsibility of the building owners. What are we doing this time? That's why we have that such a difference between.
Yes.
Are we going this time right up to the wall and covering that expense? Or are we expecting the businesses to cover
so
that?
based on our judgment, like where the property line is right to the wall. Some businesses have a little bit of extension from
Most
the,
of that downtown core has about, what, 2 feet? worth
Yeah.
of-
yes.
No, there's 2 feet.
No, there is like some businesses are offset from the property line, so that will be up to them to fix it. But we will go up to the property line, right?
Yeah, I struggle with that and that caused a lot of problems between that offsetting piece between when that sidewalk was put in the first time and having those aprons there. We had step ups, we had disintegrating concrete because they didn't bother fixing it
Right.
and it causes challenges. How much more is it for us to take it to that property line? Like
I
why
really don't have
should
exact
we
numbers, but
be exploring into that option? Of
it won't be a huge,
Yeah.
huge expense, right? It would be, I would say in the range of maybe 20,000, 25,000 extra.
Christian, is that not similar to what we did with service on the west side there?
Service was a little different, like so that's what we did, like a portion of sidewalk on the service side were missing and were damaged. So we went to service, we were like, hey, you will have to chip in, and they were, being a bank, they were able to chip in. So they paid for their portion of sidewalk up to the property line.
So that it would all match, yeah, as opposed to just going to the property line.
Yeah.
So that could be an option that we could present to those business owners.
And that's where, we can basically, when we do the open house, that's where we are expecting this kind of questions, and we'll definitely have a discussion with those business owners.
Thank you.
Counselor Hughes.
Okay, so we all seem to be coming down to the concern of a timeline, I feel like. So what would it look like if we were to delay this decision a week until we understand which of the companies can deliver us the timeline we look for? Is that going to cause huge delays for you and the process? Or is that something we want to do? To you guys as well?
Counselor
To
Adams.
comment on that, I think having the idea that we're going to work the phases around an event, like especially Riverboat Days, because that is an established event for as long as I can remember. I think working the phases around that, and as long as the contractors are open to it, what does it matter?
All
What
right,
the timeline is.
Counselor Graham.
Do you think that will work? Those phases, like, doesn't,
Freezes will work for sure.
It'd be great to have it done, but if it's not, but.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Counselor Hughes.
Okay, I will make a motion to award the East Walk surfacing work to Duro Contracting.
Call the question. Oh, any more discussion? Okay, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. There is another motion requested to accept the project as information. We need both. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look both ways. The table shape is challenging.
I move that we accept it as information.
All right, any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Bush.
Not done.
Okay, I have the next one.
I thought that was, never mind, continue. I thought that was.
it's Cush night
patience.
tonight.
The next one, the purpose of this report is to request a decision from council to finalize the design for the welcome to Slave Lake signs. As a part of Town of Slave Lake's rebranding and new visual identity project introduced in 2022. The town is looking to replace the existing welcome to the Town of Slave Lake signs located on Highway 2 and 88. This project is budgeted in 2023 capital budget with allocations from reserves in the amount of $110,000. Town administration has worked with a consultant to create a design option with 4 different color schemes. The sign is the sign design will have the ability for Hello Lit, the word Slave Lake for illumination at the nighttime. The logo will be illuminated as well using LED push through translucent vinyl. The created options were posted for feedback from residents on April 17th, 2023 via the new engagement platform. The engagement was concluded today. Upon closing, we have received a total of 154 responses with the majority of the votes towards option number 4. The vote percentages on options are as follows. Option 1 was 21%. Option 2 was 32%. Option 3 was 4%. Option 4 was 42%. Council has following options to choose from. Proceed with design option with most votes from the residents, or proceed with any choice of options from 1 to 4 using feedback received and receive the feedback from the resident as information. This project is budgeted again in 2023 capital budget with allocations from reserve in the amount of 110,000. Engagement opportunity was provided to resident to provide feedback on the preferred color options for the welcome signs. And then any future update related to this project will be released on town website and social media pages. Council may council may discuss and make decisions as appropriate based on the 4 color options.
Wallace first.
I will I'll move that council directs administration to proceed with option number 4 for the welcome signs.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go with Councilor Brandon first.
I just want to make a comment that 154 respondents is more than we've seen in a very long time in any of the polls that we put out. So I think it's an attestation to Engagement HQ. So I just encourage all the residents out there listening to download it if you're not already on it.
Councilor Adams.
Actually, to go on top of that as well, what is our current roughly registered number? in engagement HQ.
Roughly
Yeah.
approximately 240. Give or take, maybe 5%.
That's 64% responding. I think that's amazing. That's better than what we've ever had on anything. So
I should also add that our membership prior to this project going up was approximately 100. And with this project going up, we saw that increase from 100 to approximately 240. So this is something the town really wanted to provide feedback on.
Counselor Grummer?
I will comment on that as well, that truthfully, I didn't care which option won because they're all the exact same. Just matters what color you like more. But I find it kind of crazy that we're going to make decisions off of 154 people voting in a community of 6,000. So I think it's kind of a dangerous thing to do, but anyway. Carry on.
Counselor Hughes?
Now I don't really want to comment. No, I'm just kidding. I am happy to see so many people coming out and engaging in this way. And hopefully this is a great example of what's to come if residents do continue. I like option 4 as well and would definitely agree with Ali's motion to proceed with that, as that is what got the most likes. And I'm happy to see some sort of resident engagement and get people involved in the decisions that we're making.
Counselor Adams?
When I looked at the numbers at first, I was right along the same line as you, as far as the respondents' lack thereof or whatever. But at the end of the day, this engagement HQ isn't about supplanting council. It's not about putting it out there and they're making the decisions for us to follow. It is one piece of the pie and one more piece of data that we can at least understand and help us make the decision going forward. Happens to be in this situation that between options 1 and 4, honestly, myself, I'm comfortable with any one of them. But if this was a more contentious issue, whatever the case may be, again, it's not meant to supplant council. So I'm quite happy with how it's proceeding. The adoption rate of engagement HQ, I agree, is low, but it's something that's new and it's something that's growing. And I think it's going to be in years to come, something that it greatly benefits this town in what it is, having something that they can still communicate their feelings for, but at the same time, they're held accountable for what they're commenting on because they have to register.
That's okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I think maybe I have a different understanding of what this platform was used for. It was I never envisioned taking polls on things like this. I envisioned instead of people complaining on Facebook about potholes, they could actually get that concern to administration. So maybe I'm wrong in the way we're using the platform, and could be used in a variety of different ways. But I just saw this as something different, and I appreciate what you said, that we're not supplanting council. It's another tool in the toolbox. Although in this case, we're just going with exactly those 60 some people voted for. But yeah, whatever it was, I don't care. It's all the same. It's all the same logo. That's why I'm not pouting that much about it.
I will weigh in briefly. That was my choice, option 4. Also happened to be the choice of the majority, but I would like to echo what Councillor Adams had said, is that these decisions be based on engagement HQ. I want like administration and council to be aware that these aren't the binding decisions. What it is it's a piece of the puzzle. The public during all the elections that we have been ran and have been asking to be consulted more. And this is one of the ways we're doing so. I think what I would like to see, I know engagement HQ is new. We've had a lot of poll-based items coming up. I would like to see, as Councillor Grumlick had mentioned, more with the ability to provide responses and a bit of a thought process. I think that's what we were trying to gather, at least from my opinion, when we started engagement HQ, is I wanted to see some of the residents' thought processes with regards to decisions, not just being forced into an A, B, C, or D option. Now with the sign, I understand it's color choices and maybe that's not the right feedback we're looking for that. But with upcoming things that were on there, I would like to see more of the ability, as Councillor Grumlick had said, to comment on the issue, to provide their opinion on it. That way we're collecting all those opinions from social media, essentially, and moving them to a platform that at least we can kind of disseminate the information.
Yeah, I'll just respond with, out of the 4 true engagement projects we launched with on Engagement HQ, 2 of them had an open forum component where residents could provide feedback as an open forum.
And one was one of the speed issues and the other was the communication survey. So moving forward, each project is totally customizable based on Cedar leadership's wishes on what kind of feedback they wish to collect. We can do simple polls, we can do short answer, we can do long answer, we can do full surveys. We really do have quite a bit of options, so. Yeah, but moving forward, we'll definitely look to provide a more variety of ways to obtain that feedback.
Yeah, I think it's a new tool and we're learning how the type of responses that as council and as administration that you're looking for. And I think as we continue with it in the coming months, we'll be able to blend that a little bit better. I don't know who, you guys can fight it out.
Do you find when we provide a place for an open comment that those places get used usually or not really? If it's just a vote, they just vote without putting anything in there.
So like I said, out of the first two projects that we provided an option for open forum, I got a lot more open comments on the communication strategy than I did on the speed limit one. And I think that's just because what we were asking in those projects. But I would say roughly as an approximation, I would say probably about 35% of the total respondents on the communication survey provided some form of open feedback, and they used that form to provide a variety of feedback, not just on the communication strategy.
Any further discussion? Question?
Okay. I find, since we're talking about engagement HQ, just make you guys happy. But in the way it's laid out, the additional comment section is I feel is in the background compared to what the survey is. So people, myself included, didn't even know there was an additional comment section. I saw the survey was there to be entered, and then I thought it was done. I didn't realize there was a spot there. It doesn't tag you to do that. There's a little button up in the top corner there that's shaded out actually.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So how it works in the projects right now is the tools section is generally at the bottom and the tools will show up as tabs. So that's great feedback. I think moving forward, I'll work more to clearly illustrate what your options are. There also is tools using the platform itself where I can order the tools, right? So if we want both if we want both a general feedback and a poll or a survey, I can put the general feedback first, or I can put the survey first. It's totally customizable, but it is a great point. I should work more to show folks where to exactly go, because it is a little obscure at the bottom. There's not really much I can do about that, but I just got to point them in the right direction. Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, there's, you never know, Steve, you never know. So, okay, there is a motion on the floor. I will call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
Moving right along into question period. Do we have any questions? Councillor Hughes.
Yes, so this question is for Jeff. I have had a couple residents and business owners reached out to me with regards to grading and just some of the general maintenance that happens in the industrial areas. Sadly, I am not very familiar with what our service level is in the industrial areas. So I actually would like to make a motion today to task administration to bring a report back to council detailing our service level for our industrial areas and what that does entail, so that I have that knowledge and we could possibly review it if changes do need to be made.
Councillor Adams.
Didn't Calvin comment on that at the last meeting? As far as grading in the industrial areas in regards to waiting for the frost to come out before they would begin?
Yes, but it's
For the
other
overall.
concerns, not just grading, just
Gotcha.
general maintenance and kind of timeline, many questions outside of grading.
Councillor Brandel.
This question is for Jason, actually, regarding some FDev stuff. I know in the past we had our consultant do some stuff about recruiting other businesses to town, and council got a little bit of a survey, and we were supposed to fill out what gaps we thought were missing in the community. Just wondering when we would see some sort of update on that.
Update on a gap analysis.
Yeah.
It's not an action on my plate right now, but I can certainly take it. It would take a couple months to probably get something out the door.
Do I need to make?
So I could suggest, yeah, you can make a motion, but we still haven't, you probably need to vote on the first motion first before we get to the
Yes,
second
there's a
motion.
Okay, no
I thought there
problem.
was a question related to that first motion. So anyway, we're gonna go back to Counselor Hughes' motion. Is there any more discussion on that? Okay, I'll call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Rondo, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we task administration to bring back an update on a gap analysis. Yeah.
Any further
I'm
discussion?
sorry, what was the motion? I didn't.
Gap analysis.
A gap analysis
Business.
from
This is that.
Yeah,
for
the,
our region.
From that past survey.
I have a question. Did we not have one of those from Insight? That's.
We do.
did, but
Okay.
then
Referencing, but it was never, there was never there was a
I would say there was
report or a
template.
list that was generated, but
Yes,
there was never
suggestion.
any further follow-up or work assigned as a result of it.
Okay.
And I believe there was at the time, there was some informal council feedback on the one that was generated by the contractor.
Yeah.
With some improvements suggested.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for the
I
clarification.
just feel it was a miss because it, part of our strategic plan was to recruit businesses and retain the ones we had. So
Okay, so any further discussion on that motion? All right, I'll call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Do we have anything else for question?
Yeah, I have a
Councilor
question
Ferguson.
for Jason here, just about the rural renewal stream. How's that going? What kind of feedback are you getting from employers? I noticed since it's gone live for us that I've seen a lot of new applicants at my business alone. So I don't know if that's something that's felt across the community as a whole, but just kind of wondering your take on it.
Yeah, sure. I can just provide a brief update. So to date, we've had 9 local businesses in town apply to be part of the program. I've approved 7 of them. 2 applications are outstanding, which just some minor revisions. I would say, once again, it's very approximate, but I'd say about half of my applicants have candidates already identified for their positions and are looking to use RRS as a way to help those individuals gain permanent residency. The other half are looking for true newcomers. And so today, actually, we just posted our first job postings. Hotel Northern Star has provided us with several job postings. So those went live today. And I expect more job postings to come in the next couple of weeks from employers. Once again, those job postings have to come from the employers. We're simply the facilitator.
Thank you.
Counselor Adams.
Just a couple of questions. One for Jason here to start off with. As far as Engagement HQ and our ongoing efforts to get people to sign up for that, what have we done, or how many posts, or how are we actually continuing on with this as not just posts, but advertisements or anything?
Advertisements, no. No, if you're asking about the post refresh rate, we're looking to refresh kind of every 6 months, every 6 months, every 6 weeks. So kind of in the every 4 to 8 week period. I do have a preliminary list of new projects identified, so we can take down the old ones and put up the new ones. But in terms of advertising, no. I can certainly put up just brainstorming. I can quickly put up an ad on the digital signs. I can start posting more. I do repost Engagement HQ on social media from time to time, but there is no formal advertising plan for getting more subscribers.
For the platform itself, but every new project that's coming has an associated sort of advertising campaign to it. So if we have a new project coming for May, we'll advertise it through social media, point them to engageslavellake.ca as a mechanism to get more information out or engage on the topic that we're discussing. So although the number of ads just for engageslavellake.ca on itself maybe is minimal, we're trying to draw attention on based on the traffic survey or based on the sign survey or whatever is, that was all through our, basically advertising at, hey, we're looking for your opinion as it relates to signs. Come on and sign up, engage with us, right? Which generated the 140 plus bump in engagement. So we're hopeful that some of these other topics will generate and direct traffic accordingly, right? Maybe some positive reporting in the Lakeside Leader might help as well.
Also on that same spin, has our adoption rate totally stopped as far as Voyant goes, or is that still
It's
increasing?
pretty stagnant right now. In the last month, we've probably, I provide monthly updates in the CAL at the committee of the whole, but I believe the last update, the increase in subscribers was in the single digits.
Yeah.
Over the course of the 30 days.
It's the most useful tool we have.
I like that one.
Me too.
But anyways.
And we're
Okay,
supposed to
last
know what's
question,
going
then I'll
but
pass it
okay.
on. It revolves around, and I don't know if you can answer this, but it revolves around line painting in town. It seems we have this discussion each year, and I'm new to council, but I know this has been an issue as long as I can remember. It seems like we use water soluble paint on our lines. I know that I'm in the city, which has a little bit more traffic than we do, and they can keep their lines on the road a lot longer. So what is it that's different between the lines they're using on their roads on 170th Street that can seem to last for the summer, where we can't seem to go more than 3-4 months?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. And I can get Calvin to maybe come back and speak to that. What I am aware though of is the paint that's used on our roads are regulated to a certain spec on a provincial standard. So there is an industry specifications as it relates to that paint. Whether or not we're utilizing different paint than another community or not, I'm not exactly sure. Whether or not they're maybe painting multiple times and we're only painting once. There could be a number of different factors, whether or not they're utilizing a similar process that we contemplated at budget of basically, grinding out the road and painting within with a different sort of paint within those fillings that would avoid potentially the tires driving over or the scraping of snow blades. So there could be a number of factors, but I think every municipality would love to find that magic pill that lets their paint last for more than 1 year, but typically that just seems to be
the season.
yeah.
Really
Typically that ends up being the thing that ends up getting redone every year regardless. In terms of timelines, I think there was a question at one point in time tonight about when that is happening. Operations and visions getting through some of the sealing that's happening right now and some of the sweeping, that's the last minute sort of sweeping on boulevards and things, and anticipates potentially starting that line painting within a couple of weeks. So I don't think it's far.
I would like to comment as far as that's going. I am really happy with how that's proceeding in the town. It seems like we've gotten on top of it right away as far as potholes, filling the lines. They were even out there before we started doing the tarring to make sure that the big potholes were at least patched a little bit to get us through. The sweeping and I'm quite happy with how things are going.
I've received
Yeah.
a number of positive compliments regarding
So
the
kudos.
quality of the lawn sweeping. And as quickly, there is a slight delay. If you are on Voyant Alert, there is a slight delay as there is repairs, but it should be up within a couple days. So I really like the information that's coming through Voyant Alert that way, even with regards to why the lawn sweepers haven't been out in a few days. It's a quick read for information that way. So yeah, I've also personally received quite a few compliments from that. Is there anything else for question period? Councillor Mallam.
I saw a picture of a street sweeper in town getting rear-ended by a vehicle the other day. I don't know if there was any significant damage or was there any damage at all?
You are correct. There was a motor vehicle accident involving the street sweeper. I believe it was yesterday. There was minor damage sustained to our equipment. I think more significant damage sustained to the vehicle that unfortunately ran into the back of it. But it will be remedied through the insurance process as it sits. So I don't know if that's the cause for the delay that we're seeing today or not. I didn't receive an update on that. I don't think it was.
No, because it's
But-
the lawn sweeper that was down. not
Oh,
the
okay. So that's a
street
different
sweeper.
piece of
Yeah.
equipment altogether. That's correct. Okay.
Anything further for question period? It's the most lively question period we've had in a while. That was great. Okay, we'll move on into correspondence then.
So you have just one letter that I've included in here from Minister Copping. It's in regards to, or rather in response to, if you recall, council direct administration to write a letter in support of the town of Fox Creek as it relates to EMS and response times. So before you is the response that was received in regards to that request or in regards to that letter. So there's no actionable items necessarily out of there for administration. It's just provided for your information and the public's.
Counselor Adams.
I would like to know if there's a possibility for us to get some information on what our local numbers are. These are all fine, but they're very general as in the north. Is it possible for us to get local numbers and how often, how long we're not covered by ambulances due to transfers, any of that kind of stuff?
We more than well, we could write a letter again, I guess, and ask the
Does
question.
EMS representative on Tri-Council Health not attend meetings?
No.
I'm thinking
They would have
more
that
that
answer.
it's something we could have in the public eye, because this is an issue and a concern for all of the residents in town on how this impacts us. Not necessarily having it in a meeting that's not open to the public.
No, I
I'd
was
like to
thinking
have
more
it.
requested and then bring it
Bring it
Yeah,
forward.
from that is my thought, because that would be under the
Whatever that
Tri-Council
method
Health
would be.
Review. Yeah, that would probably be the easiest way to access the information is via the Health Committee, my thought.
Yes,
Councilor
we
Randall?
did actually share it with the health committee. We put it on the agenda that we actually wrote the letter and then we shared the answer. So yeah, it can easily be put back on the agenda to find that information out.
And
The
maybe
one,
find it
the
at
one
website.
caveat may be, things kind of sometimes come to a bit of a halt during an election period. Administrations of any of these ministries are very cognizant that information could be used to sway one side or another, or be perceived to be swaying one side or another. So you may have to wait till the election is over, the provincial election is over, before they will acknowledge and or grant any answers for you
Fair enough.
until then.
Yeah.
This would be one that would be.
For sure.
I think I would, if, as friendly things, put it on the Tri-Council Health as to request it from, I think it's Kale, but I can't remember who's the representative from EMS.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Council will also have an opportunity at the upcoming fall Alberta Municipalities Conference, right? To potentially, if granted, an audience with the Minister of Health and to have and to quite, ask these questions directly if they so wish as well. So. It's possible.
anything further? A motion, yes. Counselor Adams,
I'd like to make a motion to accept his information.
any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor? And that is carried. So we will move forward to our state of the lake. We have a few updates, but I will let the team.
Start at the very end of
We'll start at the end. This way, we'll go along this way. Then I don't have to bounce back and forth.
So Saturday, April 29th, this last Saturday, was the third annual Indigenous Hockey Day, which was celebrated in our MRC. We had 88 participants from the Slave Lake and surrounding area. Kids were coached by Fernando Pisani from the Edmonton Oilers and Ian Herbers. They did a whole number of hockey drills. I just want to send a shout out to the sponsors, Total Energy, Aspen Leaf, and Tamarack Energy for another successful event.
Okay, so just to me then. Okay, so I've got a few. There's a fire restriction for the town of Slave Lake currently due to current conditions. The fire services has issued a fire restriction for the town effective this morning at 9 a.m. During a fire restriction, all burning and fireworks permits are suspended and burning is not allowed with the following exceptions: indoor household fireplaces, barbecues, wood pellet grills, propane and natural gas fire pits, and backyard campfires and campfires in campgrounds in approved burn pits. So you can also get an update on that at alberta.ca/wildfire-status. Another thing that we'd like to note is Friday is Red Dress Day, or Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. It honors the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit and gender diverse people in Canada by encouraging learning and building awareness to end violence against Indigenous women, girls, two-spirit, and gender diverse people. That sentence definitely repeated itself. I would just like to highlight that there is a walk at 11:30. It is leaving from the town office. So this is this Friday, and then it is heading to the Friendship Center. So it is open to the public to join. So we'd hope to see as many people as we can there. You may also be wondering why we have all these hats in front of us. So tomorrow is Hats On for Mental Health. canwetalk.ca, and it's wear a hat to raise awareness for the importance of good mental health. So students across the province will participate in a coordinated lesson on understanding mental health and the importance of removing the stigma associated with mental illness. That is it for me. Counselor Hughes.
Okay, so I had the pleasure of attending the Emergency Services Ball that was held this past Saturday with Mayor Ward. It was attended by all levels of emergency services, including the RCMP, Lakeshore Regional Police, peace officers, and other police services. Representatives from our Lesser Slave Lake Regional Fire Service were also in attendance, as well as other fire services across the province. It was honestly a great event. It was so amazing to be in a room with lots of these amazing emergency responders that serve our community as well, and to celebrate and give back to them. It was a great fundraiser for all of the agencies involved, and we also were able to have the Oilers game on during the event, which made it a lot of fun. So just a thank you to all of our emergency respondents in our area, and to everyone who organized the event as well. It was great.
Okay, and I would just like to wish Mr. Slave Lake a happy 75th birthday. Harry Bartlett's birthday was yesterday, and he might not be watching now because it might be past his bedtime, but you'll see this birthday wish tomorrow on the replay.
All right, and that is it. Counselor Graham,
Motion to adjourn.
call the question, those in favor. And that is